Mexico is building a train through the jungle that drug cartels don't want finished. Simultaneously, they're constructing an entire industrial corridor that could steal jobs from China. And somehow, there's a project to connect the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans that's bigger than anything since the Panama Canal. By 2028, Mexico won't look anything like it does today. So what exactly is happening down there? Let's dive in. Project number 9 on our list. And yeah, we're counting down because the best stuff comes last, is the expansion of Mexico City's metro system. Now, I know what you're thinking. A subway expansion? That's your mega project? Hear me out. Mexico City's metro is already the second largest in North America, moving 4.5 million people every single day. Except they're all crammed underground trying to get to work. The current expansion adds 10 new stations and 15 kilometers of track across 3 lines. Doesn't sound like much until you realize Mexico City has 22 million people, making it one of the largest metropolitan areas on the planet. The traffic is legendary. We're talking 2-hour commutes to go 10 miles. The new metro lines are designed to cut that in half for hundreds of thousands of commuters. But here's where it gets interesting. Mexico City sits on top of what used to be a lake. The Aztecs built their capital, Tenochtitlan, right in the middle of Lake Texcoco. When the Spanish conquered it, they drained the lake and built Mexico City on top of the soggy remains. This means the entire city is sinking. Not a little bit. Not an inch every decade. Try 20 inches per year in some areas. Building a subway in a sinking city is an engineering nightmare. The tunnels have to account for differential settling, which is a fancy way of saying different parts of the city sink at different rates. A tunnel that's level today might have a 3-degree slope in 5 years. The engineers use flexible joints, constant monitoring, and regular adjustments to keep everything working. It's infrastructure on hard mode. The cost, around $1.8 billion. That's actually cheap compared to subway projects in places like New York or San Francisco, where a single kilometer of tunnel can cost $500 million. Mexico does it for a fraction of that. Partly because labor is cheaper, but also because they've been doing this for 50 years and they've gotten really good at it. Project number 8. The Dos Bocas refinery. And by controversial I mean half of Mexico thinks it's brilliant, and the other half thinks it's economic suicide. Mexico sits on massive oil reserves. Everyone knows this. But here's the weird part. Mexico imports about 70% of its gasoline. They pump oil out of the ground, sell it abroad, and then buy refined gasoline back at a markup. It's like selling eggs and buying omelets. The Dos Bocas refinery, located in Tabasco State, is supposed to fix this. It's designed to process 340,000 barrels of crude oil per day, producing gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. The goal is energy independence. Stop importing fuel, refine it domestically, keep the money in Mexico. The refinery covers 1,500 acres, employed 30,000 workers during construction, and costs around $12 billion. That number keeps going up. By the way, original estimates were around $8 billion, but surprise costs kept appearing. Soil issues, design changes, COVID delays, the usual mega-project problems amplified. The controversy comes from the economics. Firigas say investing $12 billion in fossil fuel infrastructure when the world is moving toward renewables is backwards. They argue the money should go to solar, wind, or updating the electrical grid. Supporters say Mexico needs energy security now, not in 20 years when renewables might be cheaper. Both sides have points, which means this debate will rage on for years. The refinery is scheduled to be fully operational by late 2025, with full production ramping up through 2027. Whether it succeeds or becomes a white elephant depends entirely on global oil prices, demand for gasoline, and how fast electric vehicles take over. It's a gamble with billions of dollars. And Mexico's energy future. Project number 7, the Trans-Isthmian corridor. But it might be the most economically significant project on this list. The idea is simple. Create an industrial corridor across the narrowest part of Mexico, from the Pacific port of Salina Cruz to the Atlantic port of Coatzacoalcos. Only 300 kilometers separate the two oceans at this point. The project includes upgrading ports, building new rail lines, creating 10 industrial parks, and establishing a highway corridor. The goal? Compete with the Panama Canal. Not by building another canal that ship has sailed, pun intended. Instead, they're using trains and trucks. Unloads its containers. Those containers get loaded onto trains, cross the isthmus in a few hours, get loaded onto another ship, and continue to the US East Coast or Europe. Why would anyone do this instead of using the Panama Canal? Time and capacity. The Panama Canal is crowded. Wait times can stretch to weeks during busy periods. The canal also has size restrictions. The biggest container ships, the ones carrying 20,000 containers, can't fit through Panama. They have to go around South America or take a different route. The Trans-Isthmian corridor doesn't have those problems. China and Chinese companies operate significant infrastructure in Panama, including ports. The United States is extremely interested in having an alternative that doesn't involve potential Chinese control of shipping routes. Mexico, being right next door to the US, is a natural alternative. The corridor is also designed to create jobs and industry. Those 10 industrial parks are meant to attract manufacturing, assembly, and logistics companies. The pitch to companies is simple. Manufacture in Mexico. Ship to both oceans easily. Avoid tariffs. Take advantage of USMCA trade agreements. It's near-shoring on steroids. Investment in the corridor is around $4.5 billion from government and private sources. Completion is scheduled for 2028, with some sections already operational. If it works, it could shift global trade patterns. If it fails, Mexico has some very expensive infrastructure that nobody uses. And this one's massive. The Mexico City new airport. Didn't they already cancel a new airport? Yes. And therein lies a tale of politics, money, and sunk costs that would make economists weep. Mexico started building a brand new international airport outside Mexico City. The design was spectacular, a Norman Foster creation that looked like a giant spaceship. They spent $4 billion on it. Then in 2018, a new president got elected, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, and he canceled the whole thing, just stopped construction. That $4 billion? He decided to build a new airport at an existing military base called Santa Lucia, about 50 kilometers from Mexico City. The Felipe Ángeles International Airport opened in March 2022, and it's weird. The terminal is beautiful, modern, huge. It can handle 20 million passengers a year. The problem? Almost nobody uses it. Airlines don't want to operate from there because it's far from the city and passengers don't want to travel that far. Most international flights still use the old Benito Juárez International Airport in the city. So now Mexico has 2 underutilized airports and 1 airport that's overcrowded. Great planning. But wait, there's more. The project also includes upgrading the old Toluca airport and connecting all 3 airports with high-speed rail and highways. The idea is to create an integrated airport system where passengers can easily move between terminals depending on their destination. Will it work? The jury's still out, but the infrastructure is being built regardless. Total cost for the Felipe Ángeles Airport and related infrastructure is around $5 billion. Add in the $4 billion wasted on the canceled airport, and Mexico has spent $9 billion on airport projects in the last decade. That's a lot of money for a problem they created themselves by canceling the original project. Project number 5. The Interoceanic Train. This connects directly to the Trans-Isthmian corridor project we talked about earlier. It's a 300-kilometer railway across the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, the skinny part of Mexico connecting the Pacific and Atlantic. The train is designed to move cargo containers, but also passengers. Travel time from ocean to ocean will be about 4 hours. Currently, if you want to drive it, you're looking at 8 to 10 hours on rough roads. The railway itself is being rebuilt from scratch. There was an old railway there, built in the 19th century, but it was basically abandoned and falling apart. The project includes rebuilding 300 kilometers of track to modern standards, constructing 15 stations, creating transfer facilities at both ports, and establishing rail yards for cargo handling. It's not as glamorous as some of the other projects, but it's essential for the Trans-Isthmian corridor to work. Construction costs are around $2.8 billion, funded primarily by the Mexican government with some private investment. Completion is scheduled for late 2024 with full operations by 2025. The railway is designed to handle both passenger and freight traffic, which creates scheduling challenges. You can't have a container train and a passenger train using the same track at the same time. The economic potential here is significant. If the railway successfully moves cargo between oceans efficiently, it generates revenue from shipping companies. If it moves passengers, it opens up the region for tourism and business travel. The Isthmus region is relatively underdeveloped compared to the rest of Mexico, so infrastructure investment could spur economic growth. And this is where things get spicy. The Mayan train. Oh boy. This project has generated more controversy than almost any other infrastructure project in Mexican history. Environmental groups hate it. Indigenous communities are divided on it. Archaeologists are losing their minds. And the government is pushing forward anyway. The Mayan train is a 500-kilometer railway loop through the Yucatan Peninsula and Chiapas, connecting tourist destinations like Cancun, Tulum, Mérida, and Palenque. The idea is to spread tourism revenue beyond the beach resorts and into the interior, where there are Mayan ruins, colonial cities, and natural wonders that most tourists never see. The route passes through jungle, cuts through protected nature reserves, and goes directly over undiscovered Mayan archaeological sites. That last part is the archaeologist's nightmare. Every time they start digging for the railway, they find ruins. Sometimes important ruins. They've discovered entire previously unknown Mayan cities while building this train. Construction has to stop. Archaeologists rush in. They excavate what they can. And then construction continues. It's chaos. Environmental groups are furious because the route cuts through habitat for jaguars, spider monkeys, and hundreds of species of birds. The Yucatan Peninsula sits on porous limestone with underground rivers and caves. Heavy construction risks contaminating aquifers that entire communities depend on for drinking water. There are also concerns about increased development bringing deforestation, pollution, and habitat destruction. Indigenous communities have mixed feelings. Some see economic opportunity. Tourism means jobs, businesses, and money flowing into poor regions. Others see cultural destruction. The train brings outsiders, commercialization, and change to communities that have maintained traditional ways of life for centuries. The government's response is basically, we hear you, but we're building it anyway. They argue the economic benefits outweigh the costs. Tourism is a massive part of Mexico's economy, and spreading it beyond Cancun helps develop poorer regions. They also claim they're taking environmental concerns seriously with wildlife crossings, archaeological preservation, and water protection measures, making it one of the most expensive infrastructure projects in Mexican history. That number keeps climbing too. Original estimates were $8 billion, but difficult terrain, archaeological discoveries, and design changes keep adding costs. Parts of the route are already operational, with the full loop scheduled for completion in late 2024 or early 2025. Will it succeed? If success means moving tourists around the Yucatan, probably yes. If success means doing it without environmental damage or cultural disruption, that's much less certain. The train will change the region forever. Whether that change is positive or negative depends entirely on who you ask. Project number 3, and this one's fascinating, the Sonora water pipeline. Northern Mexico has a water crisis. Cities like Hermosillo, with a population over 900,000, face regular water shortages. The region is desert. Rainfall is minimal. Underground aquifers are being depleted faster than they recharge. Climate change is making everything worse. People need water, and there isn't enough. Is to build a 200-kilometer pipeline from the Yaqui River to Hermosillo and surrounding communities. The pipeline will transport 3 cubic meters of water per second, providing drinking water for over 2 million people in Sonora state. The project includes not just the pipeline but water treatment facilities, pumping stations, and distribution infrastructure. The controversy here involves the Yaqui indigenous community, who have water rights to the Yaqui River. They've fought legal battles for decades to protect those rights. The government claims the pipeline won't affect Yaqui water access because it's taking water from excess flow during rainy periods. The Yaqui argue there's no such thing as excess when you're talking about a river in the desert. Construction is underway with completion scheduled for 2026. The project costs around $1.3 billion. Whether it solves Sonora's water crisis or just kicks the problem down the road depends on factors nobody controls, like rainfall patterns and climate change. If the Yaqui River has less water in the future, and climate models suggest it will, Then the pipeline might not have enough water to transport. Water infrastructure isn't sexy. It doesn't make great photos like trains through jungles or massive refineries. But it's arguably more important than any other project on this list. Without water, cities die. The Sonora pipeline is trying to prevent that. Project number 2. The Bajio gas pipeline. Natural gas is weird in Mexico. They've got it, they produce it, but they don't have enough pipeline infrastructure to move it around efficiently. Industrial cities in central Mexico, places like Guadalajara, Leon, and Querétaro, import natural gas from the United States because it's easier than getting it from Mexican gas fields. The Bajio pipeline is designed to fix this. It's a 600-kilometer pipeline system connecting Mexican gas fields in the Gulf of Mexico to industrial centers in the Bajio region of central Mexico. The pipeline will transport 1.3 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day, enough to power millions of homes and hundreds of factories. Why does this matter? Manufacturing. The Bajio region is Mexico's manufacturing heartland. Cars, electronics, aerospace components, you name it. These factories need reliable, cheap energy. Natural gas provides both. Having a domestic supply that doesn't depend on imports makes Mexican manufacturing more competitive globally. The pipeline project costs around $2.5 billion and involves both government and private investment. Completion is scheduled for 2026. The economic impact could be significant. Cheaper energy means lower manufacturing costs, which means Mexican products compete better with China, Vietnam, and other manufacturing hubs. There's also an environmental angle. Natural gas burns cleaner than oil or coal. Replacing older fuel sources with natural gas reduces emissions. It's not renewable energy, but it's a step in the right direction. Mexico has committed to reducing carbon emissions, and natural gas is part of that strategy. Project number 1, the absolute game changer, is something most people outside Mexico haven't even heard of yet. It's the Lithium Nationalization and Development Program. In 2022, Mexico passed a law nationalizing lithium, declaring it a strategic mineral under government control. Private companies can't mine it. Only the government, through a newly created state company, can extract and process lithium. Why does this matter? Lithium is essential for batteries. Phone batteries, laptop batteries, grid storage batteries. All of them need lithium. Global demand is exploding. Countries that control lithium deposits control a crucial part of the future economy. Mexico has significant lithium deposits, particularly in Sonora state. Exact amounts are unclear because surveying is ongoing, but estimates suggest billions of dollars worth. The Mexican government is creating an entire lithium supply chain from scratch. Mining operations, processing facilities, battery manufacturing plants, everything. The goal is to not just export raw lithium, but to create value-added products domestically. Manufacture batteries in Mexico. Manufacture electric vehicles in Mexico. Keep the profits in Mexico. This is enormously ambitious. Mexico has never done anything like this before. They're essentially competing with China, which currently dominates global lithium processing and battery manufacturing. They're competing with Australia and Chile, which have more developed lithium mining operations. Mexico's advantages are location, being next to the huge U.S. market, and potential integration with existing manufacturing infrastructure. First lithium extraction is planned for 2025. Processing facilities are scheduled for 2026. Battery manufacturing is targeted for 2027 to 2028. Whether they hit these deadlines is questionable, but the ambition is clear. Investment numbers are unclear because much of it is planned future investment rather than current spending. Estimates suggest $10 to $15 billion over the next decade from government and private sources. That's for mining, processing, manufacturing, and infrastructure. If Mexico pulls this off, if they successfully create a lithium and battery industry, it transforms their economy. They become a key player in the electric vehicle revolution. They attract investment from car manufacturers, tech companies, and energy storage firms. They create high-paying jobs in an emerging industry. If they fail, they've spent billions on an industry that never materializes, while private companies in other countries race ahead. It's high risk, high reward. That's why it's number 1 on this list. So there you have it. 9 mega projects that will change Mexico by 2028. Some will succeed beyond expectations. Some will probably fail or underperform, but all of them together represent a country betting big on its future. Whether these bets pay off, we'll know in a few years. Thanks for watching. If you want to see how these projects turn out, subscribe and we'll keep you updated.